Spoilers! She too had been greatly agitated that day, and that night she was taken ill again. But she was so happy, and so unexpectedly happy, that she was almost frightened of her happiness. 7 years, only 7 years. At the beginning of their happiness, at some moments they were both ready to look on those 7 years as though they were 7 days. He did not know that the new life would not be given him for nothing, that he would have to pay dearly for it, that it would cost him great striving, great suffering. But that is the beginning of a new story, the story of gradual renewal of man, the story of his gradual regeneration, of his passing from one world into another, of his initiation into a new, unknown life. That might be the subject of a new story, but our present story is ended. Crime and Punishment is a romantic novel in many ways. The title heavily suggests that punishment inevitably follows crime. Its causality, it's the way the wind blows, its nature feels kind of strongly religious in that way, strongly righteous, whereas Raskolnikov's punishment is never in doubt. What's in doubt is the physical nature. I mean, he is punished like throughout. Morally, he is punished. He falls into his fever. It's one kind of bad string of events after another, and it shows on him, and people suspect him of it, not because there's any evidence, but just because of his demeanour, just because of how it's affected him. Like, that's the expected thing to be, that's the expected person to be after committing a murder. But also what's never really in doubt is his redemption. The end of the novel really doesn't come as a surprise. This novel could almost have been titled Crime and Punishment and Redemption. The fact that he falls in love with Sonia, the fact that Sonia has her own story of kind of overcoming her dubiously moral circumstances and becoming a new woman, and for them to fit each other. Like, this is the process of life, like it couldn't be any other way. And what's really interesting to me is this concept of paying for happiness. Like, you can't be happy unless you pay your debts, unless you settle your accounts before God, unless you balance out the book. It's this idea that nothing comes free, that anything worth having is worth kind of slogging it out for. You will pay for it, and you will earn it, and you will be rewarded for it. Which brings me on nicely to my next point, which is the novella that we've been working on for the past year. For those of you that don't know, our friends are those writer girls who are the channel link you'll find in the bookshelf. Is it weird that we say in the bookshelf? Why? On the bookshelf would be more appropriate if it was an actual bookshelf. You know, I wouldn't put a normal, I wouldn't say, I'm going to put my copy, well, maybe if it had doors. Maybe if it had doors I would. I've wondered. Anyway, we decided last year that what we were going to do, we were going to write a novella, we were going to write a story, we were all going to come together, and with our love of writing and reading, and we were going to create something. And it's been kind of a year in the making. We all wrote a chapter. I wrote 2 chapters in the end. It's called A Bard's Tale, and you can download it below, again, in the bookshelf, on the bookshelf, whatever you want. I will say that the best way to read this is probably the PDF that has all the formatting intact. I can convert stuff to Mobi, and I have done, so you can find it for your Kindle in there, but the formatting gets lost a bit. I mean, it's perfectly readable, so enjoy that. I'm very proud of it, actually. It's funny, there's a lot of coincidences in it and kind of things that are quite on the nose, which I would come across really strange if someone had written that themselves, but I think the fact that we all had a chip in it and we all embraced the kind of romanticness of it, much like Crime and Punishment, doing probably the expected, what feels right, and making things fit together with each other's parts of the story. And I think it's quite nice. It's a romantic tale, and I think it's fun, and there are some really talented people who worked on it, so I hope you enjoy it. Like I said last week, I'm reading The Invention of Hugo Cabret, my first week for Children's Literature Month. I don't know what other ones I'm going to be reading. You should read this book, I'll just say now, like, and buy it as well. It's just a gorgeous, gorgeous book to own. The illustrations are stunning, so I will talk about that more next week. Until then, Lauren, I will see you tomorrow.